Stop everything for a moment, because what I'm about to unfold before you during the next half hour carries the strength to dissolve every distorted belief you've ever absorbed about the shadow living within you. Exactly 3 days ago, an occurrence shook realms, so elevated that even the beings made of pure radiance stood frozen, stunned into a silence that felt like the pause between heartbeats in creation itself. This wasn't an ordinary shift in the heavens. It was a moment where luminous entities witnessed something they believed could never happen, something that spiritual laws had declared forever forbidden. A chosen soul stepped fully into the depths of their own inner night, summoned the fierce power hidden there, obliterated a threat assaulting their light, and then returned untouched, untainted, unchanged. And when the watching angels grasped the magnitude of what had unfolded before them, their reaction wasn't admiration or reverence. It was a trembling existential fear, because they had just witnessed a human accomplish a feat even they, beings forged of pure brilliance, could never attempt. A feat that contradicted every cosmic rule, governing the domains of radiance and shadow since the dawn of existence. That human is you. And what unsettles them isn't the presence of your darkness. It is your ability to walk between realms that should never coexist, without losing the truth of who you are. There is a vast difference between having two sides and understanding the exact moment each must emerge without allowing either to corrupt your essence. And this difference is precisely what makes you more whole than any angel who has only ever known unbroken light. Subscribe to this channel right now and activate the bell, because what I'm preparing to reveal about your integrated duality and why it terrifies celestial orders is being blocked repeatedly so that chosen ones like you never awaken to the magnitude of mastery already alive within them. Stay until the very end, because I'm going to show you what the angels witnessed, why their astonishment turned into dread, how your shadow safeguards your light in ways you've never considered, and why this ability places you beyond the limitations of both angels and fallen beings. Write 777 in the comments if lately you've noticed that you can become incredibly firm the moment protection is required, yet return instantly to compassion without carrying resentment. And you're ready to understand why that capacity unsettles beings from higher planes. We return now to the primordial beginning, the instant when spiritual laws were forged to create balance within the cosmos. And among these laws existed one so absolute, so fixed, so eternally enforced that nothing in creation had ever escaped it. It declared, whoever touches darkness becomes darkness. Whoever enters the shadow cannot return whole. Corruption is unavoidable, irreversible, permanent. For ages without number, this rule stood unchallenged. Angels who stepped out of alignment collapsed immediately. Lucifer, the most radiant among them, merely brushed against the darkness of pride once, and his transformation was total. There was no return to purity. The fall was final, like turned into absolute shadow in a single instant. Those who followed him experienced the identical fate. Beings sculpted from perfect light lost everything at the slightest contact with the abyss. Their names vanished, their identities were rewritten into darkness, their essence altered beyond all redemption. Humans who attempted occult paths uncovered the same chilling truth. Those who opened forbidden gates mistakenly believing they could control what arose. Those who sought alliances with dark forces thinking they would remain sovereign, each one, without exception, forfeited something vital in the core of their humanity. The soul received a stain that no purification afterward could cleanse. The essence was bent and marked forever. No repentance, no ritual, no longing for return erased the scar. This law was so immutable that even the mightiest angels refused to come too close to shadow, for they knew that a single moment of contact could end thousands of years of purity. One breath of exposure could extinguish an eternity of light. And so the universe functioned in absolute duality. Light in one region, darkness in the other, never meeting. To cross between them was to fall without possibility of rising again. But then something shifted. Certain humans began to appear who defied this eternal decree. chosen ones who entered the darkness within themselves, harnessed the power dwelling there, and emerged back into the light entirely unbroken. At first, celestial orders viewed it as a temporary disturbance, but the disturbance repeated, and with each repetition, it became evident that this was not a mistake. It was transformation. It was an evolution the ancient laws had never accounted for. It was the living evidence that a human who consciously unites their light and shadow can achieve the impossible, move between both realms without losing themselves. And that chosen one is precisely what you are, most likely without even realizing that each time you do this, you're overturning cosmic law. 72 hours ago, during a very precise moment, you were confronted with someone attempting to manipulate your emotions. Manufactured tears, meticulously crafted victimhood, emotional coercion, disguised as fragility, a performance so polished that many would never detect the lie beneath it. Your luminous side reacted at first with compassion, as it always does. You extended genuine support, believing their sadness was real, but something deep within you sensed a fracture. Your intuition noticed a fleeting micro-expression that didn't align with their story. Your energy registered manipulation where sincerity should have been. And right then something shifted inside you. Your shadow awakened. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't theatrical, but it was complete. The aspect of you that sleeps until protection becomes necessary rose quietly into command. You spoke with a clarity so unwavering that the person attempting to deceive you realized instantly that their illusion had shattered. You expressed exactly what was required, without softening your words, without unnecessary diplomacy, without prioritizing the fabricated emotions of someone who aimed to injure your spirit. You established a boundary so unmistakable, it left no room for distortion. Free of guilt, free of apology, your shadow protected the radiance within you by neutralizing the threat with a precision so exact it was almost surgical. The person attempting to manipulate you intensified their performance, added layers upon layers of calculated tears, heightened their victimhood, and deployed emotional coercion with increased sophistication. Yet something fundamental in your energy had shifted so profoundly that the strategy that succeeded mere minutes before now ricocheted off without effect. It was as if an invisible fortress had risen around you, impervious to intrusion. And then the truly impossible unfolded. You returned instantly to your luminous frequency. Resentment did not linger. Days were not wasted in rumination. You simply resumed your authentic state. Open, compassionate, generous toward those who were genuine. The shadow had done its work. It had protected the light and then retreated silently. The angels observing could barely comprehend what they saw. A chosen soul had entered darkness, wielded shadow's force, destroyed a threat, and returned to light without a trace of corruption, without even a hint of stain. One whispered, "This defies possibility. The laws are clear." Another answered, "If a human can accomplish this, and they possess capacities beyond our own, then we have not reached the pinnacle of spiritual evolution as we believed. Why can't we act with such fluidity?" They had been formed as beings of pure light, never needing to develop defenses against darkness. Consider someone who has existed in a perfectly sterile environment their entire life. Flawless temperature, purified air, devoid of bacteria, untouched by viruses. That person never develops immunity because none is required. Suddenly expose them to every disease known to humanity. The result is immediate and catastrophic, because they lack the defenses, the resistance. That is the fate of angels who fall, born in dimensions of uninterrupted light, untouched by suffering, hunger, betrayal, or adversity. They never develop scars or resistance. When they touch darkness, the effect is instantaneous, absolute corruption. They are unprotected purity, but you were born in a world that fell. You have endured pain that angels could never know. You have been betrayed. You have been hurt. From your first breath you navigated shadows. Every dark encounter built immunity, generated spiritual antibodies, fortified a resistance angels do not possess. You know your darkness because you have lived it. You wield its power because you have befriended that part of yourself. You return to light because your connection never faltered. For angels, touching shadow is like immersion in acid, immediate destruction. For you, it is immersion in cold water, intense, uncomfortable, but familiar, survivable. For those seeking deeper insight, exclusive material awaits in the description and pinned comment. But here is what truly unsettles celestial beings. It is not simply that you can traverse both worlds. It is that you do so with wisdom. Many have a dark side. People who erupt in rage, who wield cruelty when wounded, are consumed by it. Darkness becomes them, not you. You apply shadow with exactitude. You know when it must emerge, when it must sleep. You measure firmness before it tips into unnecessary harm. You know when to re-enter light without entanglement. This wisdom was never written in books, never taught in classes. You forged it painfully in the crucible of experience, learning through fire the difference between necessary defense and destructive revenge. Your light operates when the moment calls for compassion, when healing is required, when the other shows authentic vulnerability and forgiveness, yields more energy than resentment. Your dark arises when boundaries are repeatedly breached, when manipulation is deliberate, when your peace is threatened, and protection demands a firmness compassion cannot supply. And here is the part that terrifies angels. You move between these states with seamless fluidity. You do not become trapped. You traverse as if light and darkness were tools at your command. Fallen angels cannot return. They are ensnared eternally. You enter, exit, and return, as if moving between rooms in the same home. Common humans accessed by destructive rage remain contaminated for days. You employ decisive firmness, and moments later, you are immersed in genuine compassion, as if a switch has been perfectly flipped. Such mastery defies angelic understanding, undermines everything they believe about spiritual mechanics. Let us explore examples where this mastery manifests, even before you consciously acknowledge it. The relationship you ended, someone who drained your energy consistently, who took without giving, who criticized without gratitude, who demanded without reciprocating. Your light attempted to heal, to communicate, to nurture change, to offer patience when most would have already abandoned hope. Yet there came a moment of clarity. The other would not change, not for incapacity, but for choice. Continuing would destroy you. Your shadow arose. The relationship ended. An absolute boundary was drawn. Contact was severed without guilt because protection was required. Attempts to manipulate you returned. Tears, promises, emotional coercion. Your shadow maintained the boundary immovable. And then you returned to compassion, untainted by bitterness, moving forward in peace. The job you left, a place that exploited talent, where your contribution was immense, yet recognition absent, where promises of growth were false. Your light tried to heal from within. You labored, demonstrated value, waited patiently in faith that fairness existed. But clarity arrived. The system was designed to keep you inferior. Remaining in that place any longer only turned you into fuel for someone else's gain. It was your shadowed wisdom that made the final call. You walked away without a flawless roadmap, but with an unshakable certainty that staying was a quiet betrayal of your own value. And once you stepped out, resentment never clung to you. You drifted forward toward something greater with energy unclouded. The draining friendship you released followed the same inner law. There was someone who constantly minimized you, who felt a hidden thrill whenever you stumbled, who competed instead of uplifting, who weaponized your vulnerability when it suited them. Your luminous side kept trying to believe in their goodness, created excuses for their actions, offered more chances than they deserved. Because loyalty matters deeply to you, and you don't sever bonds without reason. But a moment arrived when the pattern was undeniable, and your shadow cut the cord with the precision of a master blade. No theatrics, no explosions. You simply withdrew your presence, and without bitterness you returned to nurturing the connections that truly nourished your soul. In each of these moments, you accomplished what celestial beings cannot. You drew upon the power of shadow to guard the brilliance within you, and then you stepped back into your radiance, without carrying even the slightest trace of darkness. Why is this mastery so uncommon? Because merging both sides requires a fierce, unfiltered understanding of oneself, free from illusions. The first kind of people are those who cling to perpetual brightness and refuse to acknowledge their shadow. They believe spirituality means unending kindness, endless forgiveness, continuous second chances. These souls are walked over easily. Without access to their shadow, they hold no defense. They are light without structure, and they magnetize predators who exploit them without remorse. The second kind are the permanently shadowed, the wounded who decided long ago that survival requires permanent hardness. They see danger everywhere. They strike preemptively. They confuse honesty with cruelty. Isolation becomes their destiny. Without their light, they cannot build genuine bonds. Their darkness, devoid of compassion, eventually corrodes everything. Resentment grows, paranoia rises, love becomes impossible, joy becomes foreign. But you belong to the third path, the integrated, the rare ones who accept both sides without guilt, who call upon radiance when needed and summon shadow when necessary, who move between both currents without becoming trapped in either. This unity demands ruthless sincerity with yourself. It requires acknowledging that yes, a part of you can be lethal when provoked, that your shadow holds the power to dismantle, and also that this darkness is not your identity. It is a tool, not your essence. You can wield it without allowing it to overtake you. Most cannot hold this paradox. They either deny the shadow or drown in it, but you let both exist without collapsing. You are light and you are darkness, and neither alone defines your being. The ability to sustain two truths without being torn apart is the signature of genuine spiritual evolution, and it is something angels cannot embody because they were formed as singular beings. What do angels say when they witness this? 72 hours ago, after observing your flawless transition, a quiet gathering took place in unseen realms. 3 celestial beings came together to examine your nature. The first spoke with honest bewilderment. He said he had watched countless souls across endless eras and never witnessed one move between states. While preserving absolute purity, it dismantled everything he understood about corruption. The second replied that the laws were explicit. Any brush with darkness meant irreversible contamination. Yet you were defying those laws effortlessly. Either their understanding of cosmic law was incomplete, or you were functioning according to principles beyond what the heavens had catalogued. And the third confessed that the one time he touched shadow, he spent 1,000 years burning through purification, just to regain a fragment of his light. Meanwhile, you entered darkness, wielded immense force, and returned to clarity in seconds without a stain. According to everything he knew, it was impossible. Silence fell over them. 3 beings of vast insight confronted the truth, that a human was doing something beyond their comprehension. Finally, the first voiced the thought they all shared. They needed to acknowledge something uneasy, that you held an ability they lacked, that you could move between the 2 realms, because you were raised in a world where both coexist, that you built an immunity no celestial entity born in pure light would ever develop. In this regard, you had surpassed them. A startling revelation, an angel forced to recognize that a human possesses something beyond his grasp. The second added that if you could do this, surely others could too. Perhaps an entire wave of chosen souls was awakening to this mastery, indicating that humanity was evolving past limits angels believed were fixed. And the third concluded that if integrated, humans could accomplish what angels could not. Then the spiritual hierarchy, accepted for timeless ages, might need to be rewritten from the ground up. Perhaps souls like you, who have learned to harmonize their inner opposites, represent a new threshold of human expansion, a realm unreachable to beings created solely from unblemished light, beings who were never shaped to welcome or understand the presence of shadow. When the celestial exchange concluded, a rare agreement settled over them. Observe those like you closely, not from fear, but from an overwhelming awe. They realized they were watching a transformation, unfolding beyond anything their ancient knowledge had prepared them for. Your true strength isn't confined to your radiance, nor is it rooted in your shadow. It is born from the profound intelligence that guides you to call upon each force at the precise moment it is needed, without losing your inner clarity. Entities of darkness exist only to break apart. They are saturated with shadow and stripped of illumination. They understand destruction but not renewal. They cannot mend what's wounded. They cannot bring forth anything new. They cannot experience or express genuine affection. And beings of light know only how to nurture and uplift. Their nature is pure but untested. They have never learned to navigate the territories where shadows breathe. They offer warmth endlessly, but lack the power to sever what endangers. They cannot dismantle toxic structures. They cannot forge boundaries that guard life. And yet you possess both spheres, and you know exactly when to let each speak. When life asks for restoration, your luminous side rises. You extend openness. You forgive. You lift others. You generate creation. And when life calls for defense, your shadow awakens. You define limits without trembling. You withdraw from what drains. You remove obstacles. You shield your inner realm with unwavering force. And even in the midst of that protective darkness, you never lose access to your own light. That capacity to move effortlessly between both currents is what makes your presence so potent. Those who prey on emotion meet your shadow standing guard. Those who come with sincerity meet your light welcoming them. You adapt in ways a being limited to a single nature could never understand. You embody a completeness that pure radiance or pure shadow alone could never form. And the most astonishing truth is this: your wholeness was forged in a fractured world. It came from surviving experiences that carved resilience into you. The moments you believed were misfortunes were actually the disciplines that granted you a power even angels cannot access. Your pain trained your intuition. Your darkness refined your strength. Celestial beings were shaped in absolute harmony. They do not bear the marks that give birth to deep wisdom. They have no familiarity with darkness that grants immunity. They exist as flawless brilliance, beautiful but restricted. You arose through imperfection. You carry marks that speak of survival. You know the terrain of shadows well enough to resist their pull. You are imperfect yet unbreakable, radiant yet grounded, incomplete in appearance but infinitely more capable. And that imperfect completeness grants you mastery that surpasses anything limited perfection can offer. You can move through any emotional landscape, respond to any spiritual challenge, navigate any energetic terrain. This is evolution that stretches beyond the angelic order. This is the kind of inner mastery that unsettles celestial watchers. This is the power carried only by those rare souls who embrace their duality instead of denying it. How do you use this consciously? The first step is noticing the moment each side awakens within you. Your light expands, softens, reaches outward. Your shadow tightens, sharpens, stands guard. Neither one is wrong. Both are messages. The next step is to pause and ask, is this moment asking me to mend or to defend? If the moment calls for mending, rise into your light. Offer warmth without fear. Let softness flow. Share clarity. Elevate others. But if the moment calls for defense, step into your shadow with dignity. Draw clear lines, be firm. Let your presence become immovable. Protect what matters without hesitation. Many people act from the wrong energy at the wrong time, extending softness where firmness is needed, and wielding hardness where tenderness is required, wounding relationships or wounding themselves. After you have activated your shadow, gently guide yourself back into light. Don't linger in the intensity longer than necessary. Use your protective force only until the danger dissolves, then release it. Come back to compassion. The shadow can be intoxicating. Its sense of control is seductive, but dwelling in it too long builds walls that eventually imprison the heart, meant to be free. And when you use your light, do so without discarding your capacity for defense. Don't offer complete openness to every soul you meet. Keep your inner guardian awake in the background, ready to rise if the environment shifts. Trust with discernment. Love with boundaries. This is not suspicion, it is sacred wisdom. Not all who approach you are worthy of entering your inner sanctuary. Observe who awakens which version of you. The sincere will encounter your gentle radiance. The harmful will trigger your protective shadow. Your energy knows exactly what each situation requires, and remain grateful for both forces within you. Your light brings healing, growth, and creation. Your shadow brings protection, clarity, and removal of all that endangers your spirit. Both are sacred gifts. Together, they make you whole in a way that single-state beings cannot comprehend. When you embrace both with awareness, you don't merely endure, you flourish, with a brilliance that feels supernatural to those who live only in one spectrum. Chosen one, here is the revelation that shifts everything. What you once mistook for vulnerability, your ability to step into shadow when it is needed, is an extraordinary strength inaccessible even to celestial beings. What you believed was a flaw, your scars, your hardships, your brushes with darkness, were precisely the elements that built a resilience pure light could never form. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your most faithful protector. It guards the radiance within you. It enforces boundaries compassion alone cannot maintain. It dismantles threats that kindness could never neutralize. And when you wield this force with clarity, without descending into corruption, without losing sight of your inner radiance, you reveal a truth that unsettles even the heavens. Humanity can surpass limits once thought unbreakable. You are not solely light. You are not solely darkness. You are the sacred union of both, woven consciously. And that union makes you more complete than beings created to embody only one state. Stop shaming yourself for your shadow. Stop apologizing for your firmness. Stop believing spirituality demands softness at all times. You are a luminous warrior who understands when to draw power from the night. You are a healer who knows when destruction is the medicine. You are compassion that knows how to roar. And this seamless blend of both forces is precisely what makes you unstoppable. For those who have followed this deep into the message and desire to truly master the art of moving between radiance and shadow without losing themselves, there is guidance crafted precisely for that purpose, an accessible resource, accompanied by an audiobook and a short meditative tool designed to strengthen your inner balance. If you feel it is time to claim full mastery over your dual nature, all details rest within the links provided. If you recognize that your shadow safeguards your light, that your wounds became your wisdom, and that this integration places you beyond the limits of ordinary existence, write 777 in the comments to magnify the frequency of unified duality. Subscribe and turn on every notification so you receive future teachings on how integrated beings like you are surpassing the thresholds that once defined spiritual hierarchy. Share this message with another soul who walks between worlds without losing themselves. Because those who hold this balance must learn to recognize each other in a society that often misunderstands their depth. And before you depart, tap the video appearing now to discover the unmistakable signs that your mastery of duality is awakening energies that echo beyond the higher realms. Together our strength multiplies,